on, fam? We are back. See, here's the thing. We're going to talk about mothers today. More specifically, single mothers, single black mothers, because that's what we do and that's what we know. Um, we have a special guest, friend of the show today. We got Miss Keisha Wheeler. Keisha, thank you for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Keisha is a OG in the mama game. Have a daughter. Keisha's been a mother for 30 plus years, even though she looked like she's about 18. So we going to jump right into it. Keisha, we did a show about fathers. And one of the things for me is we try to look at both sides. And I am a self-described mama's boy. I know Carl is. B,
Possibly too.
possibly too. Okay. To Brandon's mother, we apologize. But anyway, um, so we take this topic very seriously, single because even though my mother's no longer here, I think about the impact that she had on my life. And I am here to give Black mothers all the praise in the world. So, I want to first say thank you again for being here with us and just agreeing to sit down and chop it up. I think that, and Carl, I'm not sure if you can agree or not, but I'll let you go ahead and give your point. Black mothers have been the backbone of our families forever, and they still continue to be.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I would
So,
agree.
I think that it's imperative for us to give our Black mothers, whether you're a single mother or whether you're married, your flowers while you're here. And as Maya Angelou said, with all the challenges that Black mothers have, still I rise. So, B, I'm gonna go ahead and let you start off. Um, can you ask Keisha what's a question that you've always wanted to ask a mother, but you never really wanted to?
Ooh.
Because Keisha is going to
Subject matter
give us
expert,
her,
right?
exactly. She's going to give
All
us
right,
her
here we go. Here we
expertise.
go.
Carl
All
already
right.
sitting up. So, just to get the fire going, one question and doing some research about motherhood, single moms. When you look online, you see a lot of negative stigmas surrounding that phrase right there. And of course, it's not true. You see a lot of success stories with single moms or what is it, divorced moms or widowed moms. So, just your opinion. There's plenty of success stories around it, right? But I'm curious to why do you think those stigmas exist when you know there's success stories around single moms and single mother households ran by exclusively the mom?
Well, I think it's pretty much social media that highlights the
Fair.
negativity of single mothers. Um, but I also have to talk about the absent father. Single mothers don't exist without an absent father.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's negativity, it should be highlighted towards the absent father and not necessarily the single mother.
Mm-hmm.
Because I truly believe that we do the best that we can with what we
Agreed.
have.
And that's interesting too, because I try not to stereotype, Keisha, but whenever whether it's at church or out and about, and I see a mother with kids, whether it's a singular kid or many kids, the first thing that pops in my mind is, where the hell is the daddy at? Because I know Carl, we ain't all working all the time.
24/7.
And
Nope.
again, I don't want to make it sound like it's a stereotype, but it makes me feel some kind of way because, to your point, it takes two. And I understand, where my mom as a single mom, my parents got divorced when I was 5. And although dad was still in my life, he wasn't in the house. So I watched my mom raise us and do, to your point, the very best that she could, and she did an excellent job. To this day, I still think my mother, God rest her soul, was one of the smartest women I've ever come across. But in looking at, some of the numbers for single Black mothers, I found that did a study back in 1970, 29.5%. That was the number for single Black mothers. That was in 1970. In 2023, that number rose to 44.2%. And I have to think that, if we were to take a different look at single mothers, it's more than just, the father not being there. Because one of the things I thought about too, Keisha, is we have to talk about co-parenting as a single mother. So, what's your take on co-parenting? Were you able to co-parent as you were raising your daughter?
Um, no, I wasn't.
Mm.
And as a background, my mother is a single mother. I come from a family of 8. And my mom
Wow.
raised 8 kids, 6
Hey, Keisha
boys,
Mama. Thank
6
you.
boys and 2 girls
Wow.
Jeez.
Woo.
by herself. My father was around till I was about 8 years old.
Mhm.
Um, when my mother and father, ended their relationship, she had another child by someone else. So my father came over. I remember this day very, very like it was yesterday.
Mm.
And he saw this baby, and I never seen him again.
Mm.
So because my mother decided to have another child by someone else, he decided I don't want to be in her life or his kid's life. So yeah, and so she was a single mother. I'm a single mother, a victim of a father going to prison.
Okay.
My daughter's father was in prison most of her life.
Mm.
I think he came out when she was about 15,
Mhm.
and they tried a relationship, but she decided she didn't want to continue a relationship with him. So co-parenting, no, I didn't. I did get married, so she had a stepfather
Mhm.
till she was about 14, from the age of 6 to 14 years old. And that was I got married strictly for that because I needed my daughter to have something I didn't have. I needed her to have a stable household. So I decided to get married. I got married out of security, to be honest.
Okay.
And so in that dynamic of being married and having a co stepfather, it was a lot easier for me from the time I had her. She was 6 years old. I had that help. I had that support, financially, emotionally, um, and even a father figure for her,
Mhm.
which is very important for young girls. We talk
Mm.
about girls twerking and, have this
Daddy
stripper
issues and
attitude.
all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, it's what can a mother do when her daughter does not have a male figure in her life to show her love. So she goes out and do what she think men want.
See, and that's what we talk about from time to time. Carl's got 3 daughters. I have 1. And Carl's oldest daughter is my goddaughter, shout out Paige. Um, and I have watched him and his wife raise these girls. And I have a 5-year-old daughter. And I continue to tell people, y'all already know what I'm about to say. My goal is to keep my baby off the pole.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that to go back to your point, Keisha, where we talk about what daughters need, they do need their fathers. But, going back to, when you mentioned about your daughter's biological father and them trying to establish a relationship, do you feel that sometimes parents, the custodial parent, will make an effort to push the relationship of that non-custodial parent onto the child? I mean, was it your daughter's decision to say, "Hey, mom, I want to have a relationship with him," or were you like, "Hey, you should have a relationship with your dad"?
I definitely pushed it. I still push it. She's
Mhm.
33. And I think that she needs it, but she just refuses to have a relationship with him. I think what the issues that she's going through, that she's having presently, if she had her father to guide her and to show her some love, that it'll help her.
Mm.
But she refuses.
So her father, then he was amenable to.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
still, he still tried to reach out to
Okay.
her, and she just chooses not to have a relationship with him.
And see, that's the thing, Carl, because I think, I always feel like when you have an absent parent, whether it's a mom or dad, as the child grows and as they get to become an adult, they figure out themselves how they want to proceed.
Mhm.
I've been in a situation where my biological father met him when I was 18. And my mom, kind of like you, Keisha, well, you need to get to know him. And, I had a dad. already. So when I did get to know him, I never looked at him as my father. He's okay. I know him. We cool. And I can remember times where my mom would say, "Well, why don't you give him a call?" And I'm thinking to myself, "This nigga got my number. Why I got to call him?"
Phone work both ways.
And that's what I'm saying. So, I think a lot of times, as kids become adults, there's certain things that they have to deal with, and, for your daughter, maybe she feels like I'm good, and I think that a lot of times we as parents, we want the best for our children. And I know that coming up, as a single mother, that was an important thing for you. Let me ask you, raising your daughter, what was it like having your support system? Because they say it takes a village.
Very important.
Mhm.
That's such a cliche to say it takes a bit, but it's so true.
Mhm.
I had my daughter when I was 17. So I was living in a house with my mom and my six brother. Well, it was maybe five brothers.
The village.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I honestly can say I wasn't a parent until I moved out. She was about 5 or 6
Mm.
because my mom was there. My
Mhm.
mom helped me. She helped me to continue to go to school. So it does take a village. And that was the struggle piece. And I'm also, since we're back in that, time of my life, I knew I wanted to be, needed to be a role model for my daughter. But I was 17, still in high school.
Yeah.
So I had to figure out what was I going to do, So there was a nursing program. It was called JEPTA. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be a nurse. You can go into the LPN program.
Mhm.
For a year, I was working at Kmart. I made $18,000. I was 19 years old. I made $18,000 that year. Do you know they turned me down because I made too much money?
Wow.
Oh,
So
okay.
not so I mean, even the system, if it's
Mhm.
you're not poor, and I consider that poor, pretty poor,
Mhm.
but $18,000 for two people, my daughter, myself, was too much money to enter the program. So I had
Mm.
to consider, what am I going to do?
Mhm.
That was a heartbreak. I left that building in tears because this was my way out. This is my way
Mhm.
to take care of my daughter, and I was denied. So it was, what's plan B?
Mhm.
You know. So like I said, between the ages of, newborn and 5 years old was a struggle. And my daughter, I'm sorry, my mother and my brothers really helped me, and it absolutely takes a village.
Okay. Okay.
So, and I'm glad we kind of in this vein because I have a question. You pointed out a couple of things. You were raised by a single mother. You are a single mother. I have two questions, but one of them, the first one is, I've seen, and don't get this wrong, because we are giving mothers their flowers, particularly single mothers. But I've seen a push, and I don't know, it's not just on social media, but it's in real life, where single mothers will almost wear it as a badge of honor, like, I don't need nobody. I can do this on my own. You pointed out that you did marry for stability for a particular point in time because your daughter needed somebody. How do you feel about when people, well, I can say people, single mothers have children, maybe on purpose, because they want to have a child and then say, well, I can do this on my own?
Um, I think they just don't know better,
There you go.
until that child comes, I think they'll sing another tune. I think those are the mothers that's financially able to take care of a child that says that. Um, that's the only reason you could say that, because you're financially stable. But
So it's more
once
to it than being just financially stable?
not to do it on your own.
No kidding.
You can't do it on your own. You can't. I mean, well, you can. You can. But if you want to raise a well-rounded child or a human, both parents are required. those women, and I have a friend who doesn't have any children, and she's considering, she's up in age, doing it by herself. And I believe she should, because I also believe every woman that wants to have a child should have a child.
Mhm.
But it's definitely going to be some obstacles, because it you need a male figure, father figure, a boy's life or girls. They both need that man in their life.
So in saying that, and that's kind of going into my second question. You mentioned that your daughter is having some struggles because she doesn't. Well, I guess say struggles, but some issues, let's say, because she doesn't have a relationship with her father.
Mhm.
If you have a single mother who can do it on her own financially and wants to have a child, is it fair to that child? Could that child necessarily have those same struggles as an adult or as an adolescent into adulthood because they don't have that father? And and the reason I say that is a lot of people, black women are the most educated. They're, you know, they can do it for themselves. Sisters been doing it for themselves and all that. And I, that's fine. That's beautiful. But when you start bringing other humans into the equation, um, there's some other things that need to be considered other than my well-being. And I understand because men do the same thing. Men want to have a child. They want to have a namesake. And unfortunately, a lot of times we have them and then say, that's my son, that's my daughter. I'm over here though.
Yeah.
Adios.
But I'm going to, that's little Twan Jr. right there. And you don't have a relationship with Twan Jr., but you're going to tell everybody that's Twan Jr.
Mhm.
Now, if it's a mother, they're going to have their son or daughter. And then, yes, they can raise them and give them all the accoutrement of, private schools and finer clothes and everything else. But is there going to be a relationship disconnect from and you can see it on both sides, yourself and from your daughter?
Yeah, and I'm gonna speak for myself. I believe a woman's first love is their father. First love for for as a male is their father. And I loved my father. I didn't understand, still don't understand um what happened, because we had a great relationship as a kid. I was a daddy's girl. So you just left, so there's that abandonment there, so I definitely suffer from that, and I believe my daughter suffers from that too. And these abandonment, not trusting that you're going to be here, which makes me and probably a lot of other single mothers very independent and strong. We don't. I don't want to be as strong as I am, but I have to be, because I can't depend on that you're going to be there. I don't know that you're going to be. You may leave me just as my father has.
Yeah.
So that's where the strength comes from and the independence, because I have to do it for myself because I don't trust you.
So let me ask you, because you brought up a very interesting point on that front, Keisha, because a lot of times we will see the strong black woman, independent woman, and when it comes to relationships, then there are some obstacles, because you'll meet a man who maybe can't deal with that independence, or too strong-willed. I was years ago, previous relationship, I told a young lady, I feel like I'm dating a man,
Yeah.
because you just got it. You don't need me for this. You don't need. Well, what the hell do you need me for?
Yeah.
And I think that is important when we're talking about parents, because I think it's fine to we've got a mother and a father, but if the father is just a no good piece of garbage, why would you even want your child to have a relationship with that person? If and I'm not saying that you would speak bad, because we have enough of that where, mothers are speaking bad about fathers. And, from being in a situation where I've got a son, prior to me getting married, and the challenges I went through with his mother, I can honestly say that there are some fathers that want to fight. They want to be a part of their kids' lives, but then when you have mothers that are keeping them from their kids, those are the good guys, because we there. But for the busters, you know this fool ain't no good. Yet you chose to lay down with him. Now y'all got a kid. What would make a mother still want to have that buster be a part of her child's life?
I think we just want our child to know him for themselves. We
Yeah.
don't want to talk bad. That's their father,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and that's their family. That he's a part of the child,
Mhm.
So we want them to know it for themselves, and the child makes the decision on whether or not they want to deal with him or not. Um, and I think basically that's it. It's just he's a part of you. So you should know that side of your family. You should know that. There's some things that come up, even for me, that where did I get this from? You're like, is this inherited?
Mhm.
I don't know because I don't know my father's side of the family.
Mm.
So I don't know where it comes from. And I think it's just fair for the child to know, where they come from.
Okay. And I agree to a certain extent, but I think I'm looking along the lines of on the flip side, because when that child finds out that they got to bust their ass for, why do I be stressing that, don't I?
Yeah,
Yeah.
use a little emphasis there,
I'm
but
just,
You got
I
somebody in
understand your
mind.
your
yeah,
passion.
Yeah,
You get
I don't want to
passionate
start
about
name
it.
dropping, but
No,
I
don't do
mean,
that. Don't do
but
that.
once the kid finds out that, the father's not any good, then as the mother, you've got to comfort them because now their heart is broken and they're coming back. And part of it could be, well, Ma, you knew he wasn't no good and you let me
Yeah,
go
and
out there
Mm.
and get hurt. So now I'm here and you got to comfort me. You got to take care of me. And I have to imagine that it's probably, gut wrenching for a mother because you knew that it probably was going to happen. But being the strong Black woman that you are, you're going to be here for your kid.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how do you deal with a challenge like that?
Well, did we really know? You know, again, I was 17 when I had my daughter. Did I really know that her father was, and I'm not saying her father, was no good, but the father was no good. Um, I had a baby. It wasn't on purpose. I didn't plan to have this child.
Mhm.
So I I really don't even know that he's this terrible man until you were born and I see how he moved in
Mhm.
your life. So but I still have, because you could come back and say, well, I don't know who my father is.
Mhm.
It could be that blame because I have
Mhm.
that. I have my oldest sister. Um, she didn't know her father.
Mhm.
So she has that. I don't even know who he is. I
Mm.
don't know where I come from. So it's hard as a parent. It's, do I or don't I? It's going to be a blame, if I introduce you to this no good man, or if I don't, I'm still the villain in it. So, what do you do?
I think, in those situations, I think that a mother would be a temporary villain, possibly.
Yeah.
Because if you've built a strong relationship with your mother through all of this single motherhood, and she's been the one who's raised you, yeah, once you get to be a certain age, usually it's adolescence, when you're like, okay, where's my father? Or, I don't know him. I don't know his family. And then when you do find out that he's a no good buster,
You gotta say it the right way,
You
man.
gotta put some
I
oomph in it.
want to be a little more soft with it, because that's what the mother would probably say.
Mother.
Now once you come back, why don't you tell me my daddy was no good? Well, I wanted you to know for yourself that he's a no good buster. But I don't think that villain status would be permanent. It would be
Agreed.
more so. It would be more so. Yes, you may question your mother's judgment for a moment, but again, you have to think back, years later. And I've had these conversations with in my own personal life in different circles. Um, I was young. You say people, and you either I've said it or I've heard other people say, I was young.
Yeah, but I question that, I was young thing, because to ask you, Keisha, in hindsight, we can't go back in time, but what do you feel the importance of vetting out your partner in the process goes? Because I know it comes back later like, oh, I was young, I didn't think, but I think that's a big one that we need to see. We need to check some boxes if we
You gonna have
can.
them fill out an application?
Hey,
You
No,
know,
I want no.
still got to do
I
some
want-
homework.
No, I do want to hear this.
Yeah,
My-
thank you.
Because it might help me. Because I'm like, you mean vetting out? But okay, go
my
ahead.
daughter is 33,
Mm-hmm.
no kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I stress, be careful who you have kids with. All her life. And that means be careful who you lay down with because you might have a kid.
Yeah, that's
You
where
know.
I'm going. Carl.
I know that's where you're
So
going.
yeah, you
Found me, Gene. You found me.
I
Okay,
know, I know where it's going, but
Hey, I'm picking up what you put
come
down.
on, Keisha,
baby.
tell. I was
You-
17.
I was said no one told me to be careful. Okay. But I stress that to my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ask her today, one thing that your mom said to you that's like she's gonna say that. Be
Okay.
careful who you have kids with. And with the reason she doesn't have any kids. Because it's so important. You get in these relationships or non-relationship situationships as they call it
Yeah.
now. And
Entanglements.
and yeah.
There's a lot of words we can
Right.
throw out for that.
And you never know that person that you just laid down with, you may get pregnant with him. With and you have to be careful. You have to know these people. You have to know if there's mental illness in the family. If the whole family dynamic
mental. We
is
ain't talking
absolutely
physical.
important.
No, I
You sparked another one of them. Now we need to go into mental health issues in this now.
But yeah, and I stress that to any young person. Just be careful who you lay down with, who you have in your circle. Because you may have a child by that person. You may not get pregnant by that person. And you have to deal with them for the rest of your life. So, um, very important.
Let-
I only have one child
Mm-hmm.
because I learned that lesson.
Gotcha.
See, and a part of me, and I say this jokingly because we got multiple kids, but part of me feels like it's a little selfish to have just one kid.
It is.
I mean, because I think about Carl, the kids in the neighborhood that was single, that was just
them.
yeah. And he had everything. His name was Sean, I think. He had everything, but we treated him like hot garbage because we knew.
Why y'all do that to Sean?
Well, I would.
Because what's Sean gonna do if
Y'all
we
some
mean to
Because he
him?
can't go get nobody.
Exactly,
Well, yeah.
Come on now. Y'all
I
just
didn't-
cruel.
man. I'm just saying.
That was his
he,
neighborhood.
he had
Hey, we went to the
television.
same school. We didn't live in the same neighborhood.
We sorry,
But
Sean.
no, I'm just saying though, and then I do have a question though, Keisha. When we're talking about kids and as they get to know their parents or whatever, and they say, okay, Ma, I can't believe that you was with this person. Is there a point as an adult that you feel kids or adults in that situation should get over that hurt? And I say that because I had a family member who his father left at an early age, and later on they never really established a real relationship. His father had other kids that were grown, and but I remember being at his funeral and was talking to this family member, and he was still hurt by the fact that he didn't feel like his father was there for him. And I wanted to just grab him and shake him and be like, dude, at some point you got to get over this. Because I mean, if you don't, then you're wearing that like, albatross around your neck for the rest of your life. I mean, do you think there's a point that you do have to get over it, or how can you get over it?
Absolutely. I think it's hard to get over, even at, my big age. I'm considering reaching out to my dad. I know where my dad is. I saw him, maybe 20 years ago. But I decided that I didn't want to be part of his life then.
Mhm.
But as I'm getting older, I think I need that, so you can get over it, but it's still something there that you want to get to know that other part of you. It's part of me, right?
Mhm.
And I don't have any ill feelings. I don't know the whole story, there was something between him and my mom. What part did she play in it? Even though there's no excuse for you not, being a part of your child's life.
Mhm.
And I don't want to know the story. I don't care. But I'm at a place where I think I want to know him
Mhm.
before he passes, before he
Yeah.
goes away, So, can you get over it? Yeah, you still have to take responsibility for yourself as an adult on what type of life you want to live
Mhm.
and forgive. But I don't think it ever really goes away that you don't know who your father is. You don't have a relationship with him. Again, my sister never knew her father. My sister is 58 years old,
Mhm.
and that still bothers her. And she has tried to he's dead now, so
Mm.
she can't know him. But even my mother talking about him now, and she knows, a little about him from what she has got from my mother, it makes her feel a little better.
Okay. Okay. You talked about advice that you would give people about be careful you lay down with. What aside from that, what would be some life lessons that you as a single mom coming up could give some of these mothers coming up now?
That's a hard one.
Mm.
I've been thinking about that because it's hard. Parenting is hard, and parenting as a mother, single mother, is harder. Um, my advice is first is don't become a single mother, okay?
Fair.
There you go.
Right? Vet out that man, before
Mhm.
you have a child. Um, and then get you a village, if you are a single mom and you need some help.
Mhm.
You need help with raising the child.
Mhm.
You need help with getting away and having some personal time of your own,
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's and then imagine the life that you want and make a goal to get it, you know.
Okay.
And I'm talking financially
Mhm.
because it's hard being a single mother when you don't have the means as far as the income.
Mhm.
At least make that part of your life a little better. You have the financial means now. So now you have those other struggles that you may not be able to do too much about, but at least imagine your life, what you want and what you want to see for your child. Income is very important when it
Mhm.
comes to raising a family. As you
It's
all know,
kids are
it's
expensive.
expensive raising
Yes.
kids. And raising them by yourself, you know, just a mother and me and my daughter. If I didn't have her, I could have a one-bedroom apartment. I could have a roommate. I
Mhm.
could live with my mom,
Had that convertible.
But yeah,
Look at
but
that. You going where I'm going with that.
Right.
Sports car.
as a mother, I need a two-bedroom apartment, which costs a little bit more, right?
And you hit some points, and I wanted to ask a couple of questions on that too, Keisha. What kept or what keeps you motivated as a mother? So as you were coming up, what was that end goal? What did you see that just kept you moving forward?
Yeah, I like I said, I have 7 siblings, a single mother household. I knew what I didn't want for my child,
Mm.
and I saw people. I have an aunt, and I saw her, and I wanted to be that way. I wanted to raise my daughter, you know, that way. With I could give her, you know, what I felt like she deserved, and then again, what I think I deserved and didn't have as a kid. So that was my motivation. It was those things that I felt I needed as a child. I wanted to make sure I gave it to her. And I knew that I didn't want to go back to
Mhm.
where I came from. So that was all it was always, okay, what do I need to do? Okay, I need to make more money.
Mhm.
So to make more money, I need to get some type of skill. um, I need to get a degree. It was just
Mm.
I knew what I wanted, and then what do I need to get there? And my daughter was always top of my mind, anything that I did. So when she went off to college, it was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing with myself? All I know, I'm a mother. So because my whole life was about her.
Mhm.
you know, what's best for her, where we're going to live, school district. It was always what's the best for her. And I think for single mothers, you have to think about that for your children.
Yeah.
What's best for them? Because it's not fair. They didn't ask to be here. So set them up with as best that you can. Yeah, and again, that was my motivation. It was her. I always looked at myself as a role model because I know she's looking at me.
And that's very important too, because I think that when we talk about being parents, you move from being selfish to selfless as a parent. Because prior to having kids, oh Lord have mercy, you getting it in. Well, I know we did back.
Here we go, man.
I'm just saying.
You wasn't wholesome?
This was when we were single. We can talk about those
Oh,
times.
okay.
All we do, we reminisce. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Mhm.
so that being said, though, we turn into parents and we start putting kids before ourselves. So let me ask you, Keisha, at what point did it click for you where you said, you know what? I got this mothering thing. I'm doing it. Because it doesn't happen instantly.
It never clicked.
It still hasn't clicked.
No, it doesn't click because you're always second guessing yourself.
So at what point, though, did you become, let me say it another way, more comfortable with being a mother, where you didn't worry so much?
I
No.
think mom's always worried. My mom's still worried. I think
was about to
mom's
say,
was
I-
worried
I
by
mean,
default.
I'm saying, but not as much. I mean, because earlier on, you're a single mother. You're like, wait a minute, I don't know, we're going to have enough money to get groceries this week. But then 15 years down the road, you ain't got to worry about groceries because you've reached a goal. Financially, you good. So
And it's new worries.
Yeah, it's no worries. It's maybe now. She's 33. you know, Even, when she went off to college, I had to fund that, and then when your child turns 18, I think I pulled her closer to me.
Hmm.
I tried to even parent her even more
Mm.
because you think you grown. And I need to help guide you because, this is the place, this is where you really make mistakes, So it has to be now. And because she makes me, Mom, I'm grown, so I don't know if I'm ever comfortable with, I didn't struggle always, I think the struggle was in the beginning, up until I got married. And so my life, was pretty comfortable. And after my divorce, it continued to be comfortable financially. But you always worry about your child and, want them to be a productive citizen of, society, right? So I don't know if I've ever gotten comfortable. Still today, I don't know if I'm comfortable.
having sons, friends, where are you on that? Because I still say to my boys, I'm not trying to be your friend. I'm
Yeah.
your dad.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I see, yeah, and you probably witnessed it coming up. Friends that they parents would let them drink, smoke at the crib. They were friends with it. I don't know if I'll ever get to that point. I think they're gonna have to be really grown. They're in their 20s now, but I'm not gonna be, we're not gonna be kicking it, at the club. I see you at the
Yeah.
bar. None of that. So what's your take on being friends with your daughter?
I can't, and that's what she wants. She wants
Not
that,
yet.
She has said it, I can't be your friend, honey. I'm your mom. We could go out, we go have dinner, we can even have a drink. But I'm always gonna give you motherly advice. I'm not gonna talk to you like I talk to my friends.
Mhm.
I'm your mom. I'm here to guide you.
Mm.
And
So you don't expect her to talk to you like you one of her girls either. 'cause
absolutely, and she can. I'm her
No,
mom.
no,
you got to
nope.
get checked.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't. I can't be friends with my daughter. I could be more friendly, a little less parenting, but I'm your mother, and I can't help it. I'm sorry. I'm always going to look out for you and your best interest and give you the advice of a mom. I can't talk to you like a friend, and I don't expect you to talk to me like your friends.
B, since you are the youngest of the crew,
Yeah.
how do you feel about that being free? Do you think you are at the point where you friends with your mother and your father?
No. I don't think that. I don't think it's the same thing. They're still parenting. I talked to my mom yesterday. She was parenting me over the phone, saying, "Do this, do that, do that." I don't think it ever ends.
Do you
Because
have friends that are friends with they?
yeah, that dynamic's a little different, of course. But from my perspective, yeah, it's still my parents. Even though I'm out the house, I'm almost 30 years old. They say, "Well, what's going on?" And they're gonna interject their parental 2 cents. I know that's never gonna stop.
I had friends that was calling their parents by their first name. Where the hell they do that at?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't.
Different,
No.
different time.
And this was in the 70s.
Yeah, I
Like,
never.
dude.
Oh,
Back
no.
then, no, I never saw that.
Yeah, a few of them ended up in jail.
Yeah.
See, that's why I says it's a different dynamic. But
That's-
since we're back in my generation now, I'm gonna spin one over to Keisha because this is and relatable to me and probably a lot of other guys in my age range. When I recently long-term relationships in my earlier 20s and I got back out here, a new concept to me was single moms. I was always dating 1-to-1. so
Hey.
Return of the Mac. It'll be.
Anywho, so that's a newer concept to me, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only guy out here because of people were trying to set up dates, and I'm like, she has a kid. How does that work? So on the outside looking in, how does that dynamic work? Bringing a single man into the picture with you plus one or however many it was with a single
Well, I
mom.
hope
Because
he'd
that's
be single. He wouldn't be married. I'm just.
you hear some crazy stories, but I'm just speaking for the single man because it'd be Charles that got the wife over there. We're not talking about that, Gene. We just talking a single man meets a single mom.
Okay, B.
How does that dynamic work, and can you foster that in a positive way, possibly, if you even think that's
A single man with no children.
correct.
I've dated a man without children. Um, and he came in like he knew exactly what to do.
Mm.
Um, I think first you have to be patient with that
Mm-hmm.
young lady because she's used to doing things on her own. So she's used to doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
She's used to both roles. And we talked about that earlier, being strong, being independent, because she has to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think a man needs to come into her life and show her, I got you, and do those things for her so she could trust you, because she has to trust you to let go.
Mm-hmm.
For me to let go of those man roles, I gotta trust you. I
Fair.
gotta trust that you have my back, that you have my best interest at heart,
Mm-hmm.
and that you're gonna do it correctly.
Mm.
So I would say be patient with her
Okay.
on that, because she has to trust you that you're going to do what's right, and just understanding that respect her role as a mother.
Mm-hmm.
Know that her kids come first.
Mm.
They come first. I'm sorry. I have to protect my children.
Mm-hmm.
And that she has boundaries around them. So if she don't want to introduce you to her kids, then respect that.
Yeah, fair.
Let her trust you enough to bring her children into your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are the most important things to know
Okay.
entering that type of relationship.
So real quick, Keisha. So is there the right time to introduce kids to this person that you're dating? Because I have to imagine that what you don't want is, you dating somebody and it lasts 3-4 months. You done brought around the kids. Now he gone.
Yeah.
So now you have to deal with the emotional fallout with the kids.
Yeah.
Like we used to seeing Brandon, and now Mr. Brandon ain't here no more. So where's Mr. Brandon's car at? Mr. Brandon don't bring us McDonald's from work no more.
Or when the next one come around, they comparing him to Mr. Brandon.
Well, Brandon used to.
Yeah.
That
I
is
don't
so
like this
hard.
one, Mama.
Go send
He
him
bringing
back.
White Castles. Mr. Brandon used to bring us Big Macs.
It's hard. It's hard to say. I could tell you my mom, I never met any of her boyfriends.
Mm.
You know, her Mr. Charles Otlot came, you know, and he would blow the horn, you know, and she go
Gotta
out and
go.
she leave. That's all we knew, you know. For me, I did not. Um, I didn't really introduce my daughter to any man that I was dating until I was in a serious relationship.
Mhm.
And I still protected her from that. No, you can't come over my house. My daughter is here. You know, no, I can't come over. My daughter is here. So, but then, and not until she became grown did I, you know, she started, you know, meet anyone that I was in a relationship with. But in hindsight, it's like, was that the best thing for her?
Mm.
Because now she didn't experience me being in love or showing affection, you know, in
Interesting.
her teenage years.
Oh, wow.
So she didn't
Good point.
experience
Yeah.
That's
that. She
interesting.
didn't see her mom, you know, love on somebody.
Mm.
So do she know how to do it? You know? So I don't know. I don't know if it was the best thing to keep her out of my relationship and keep men from knowing her or establishing a relationship with her. I don't know.
But I think that just speaks to your intentions of being a mother and putting her
Yes.
ahead
Yeah.
of other things, because you mentioned earlier, and I want to circle back to that real quick. How important is self-care as a single mother or a mother, period? Because you're so busy putting the kids first. You know, is there ever a point in time where if you had to, or you wanted to do something for yourself, you felt guilty because, well, I don't need to be doing this because I could be doing this over here for my daughter.
Yeah, but it's also important for your kids to see you care for yourself. So they'll know how to do it. You
Mm.
know, um, it's a balance.
Hmm.
You know, and it's heavy on the kids. It's heavy on making sure they're good,
Hmm.
but you also have to make sure you're good
Mm.
mentally, um, and that you're getting the emotional and even physical connection that you know from a partner, because you can't really be good for your kids if you're stressed or
Yes.
you know if you're not taking care of yourself. So it's a balance, which makes it so hard, you know. And I only have one child. I mean, I don't know how my mother did it. You know, or anyone that has more than, you know, one. It's hard. But I think, you know, having one child is a little selfish. But it was always, I can't take care of, it's hard taking care of her. I can't bring another one in the fold. But then I
Yeah.
left her by herself. You know,
Mhm.
she
Mm.
doesn't have a sibling. You know,
Well,
she
she
doesn't
didn't grow
have
up in
anyone.
Eugene neighborhood, so she was
Right.
Hey,
they was coming. They would have came for her.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I have my siblings. I have my brothers and my sister to talk to.
That's one thing I wanted to ask too. Um, Speak a little bit about if you feel it's important for having male role models as a
Mm.
single mother. So I know you said you have how many brothers?
6.
Okay.
She's covered.
So she got some uncles.
She's
Yeah.
You know,
covered.
your child. But like, you know, I know that there may be single mothers who don't have brothers, who may not have that type of, but what, and I'll just leave it kind of open ended. How do you feel about having male role models in your child's life?
I think it's extremely important. You know, not just for boys, but for girls as well. I was talking to my cousin about it, and she lost her husband.
Mm.
She had 6 kids, and she lost her husband early in their life. And you know, she also tried to protect her kids and not, you know, bring any other men around her kids. And you know, she had the boundaries. But in hindsight, she thinks that maybe she should have let um her male her boyfriend at the time be a role model to her boys. You know, she feels like now that she hurt them
Mm.
by not having a man in their life to show them, you know, a different way. So it's yeah, and again, I have 6 brothers, and all my brothers are great and they're doing well. They had my grandfather. Um, and I believe, and they'll talk about my grandfather as if he was their dad. And I believe that's why they've done so well in life because they
Mhm.
had they didn't have their father, but they had a man in their life.
Mhm.
And my daughter had my brothers in their life. So I truly believe, women can't necessarily raise a man. And I don't think women
You say that
alone.
again?
I was gonna
'Cause
say, say that again.
yes, because
One more
you
time.
can look into the
I think they
camera
want to.
and
They want to make a
let
clip of this. So can you
yes, so
please
we
face?
Women, we can't. We can't raise a man. Um, and so many of us, and I don't have a boy. I wish I did, but so many of us coddle our boys, and
Move a little closer to the mic.
they
You want me to
coddle.
scoot it in?
like,
we
we
coddle
have
our
talked about
boys,
that.
and they really need a man in their life to show them, how to be a man.
Because we've talked about that, and the conclusion that we come to is that when you do have that male that's being coddled by his mom, I call it the pimp attitude, because once he gets out there, he is used to a woman giving him everything. So when you start dealing with these young ladies out here, if you're not giving me what my mama was giving me, then there's a problem.
Yeah,
There's a lack of respect.
yeah.
So I'm all for that. I want to ask you one question, Keisha, and I don't know how difficult it's going to be for you to answer, but you got to put yourself in the mindset of your daughter. She has one word to describe you. What word is that going to be?
And I'm gonna use this word because she has said it plenty of times and even posted it on her social media. Magical.
Mm,
You know, that
Magical.
magical.
I like it.
Like, wow.
Yeah, man.
Why am I thinking Disney World and
No, you.
and
we not-
fairies?
No.
I'm just magical. Okay.
Yeah, I think I just made
Lucky
things
Charms.
happen. I was able to make things happen for
That's
her.
exponentially better than strong. I'm just
You hear that all the time.
yeah.
don't you?
I shout out to your daughter. That's good. That's good.
What's your daughter's name?
Alexandria.
Alexandria. Mom is doing it, so thank you for allowing her to be here with us. So we appreciate that.
Thank
So
you.
B,
You've opened our eyes today. I definitely think we had a good conversation, and
she opened yours. Man, you
You-
know how many
Well-
years we got in the game?
well, when she said
know.
magical, you was like,
Yeah, I don't hear that word a
so,
lot.
See,
So
we can. That's something we can change the narrative and say single moms are magical.
we're gonna start using that.
Yeah.
Magical.
That's a
We're
good
about to have a
one.
magical
is good.
show.
I can't see you saying that, but anyway,
Put some emphasis on it. Yeah.
But anyway, Keisha, if you could, I know we're running down on our time, but if you could just give some parting words to if it's either single moms, single dads, or even moms in general, what little gem would you leave them with before you get
Oh,
off with us?
Yeah, that's so hard. Again, my advice is very limited to single moms because it's a hard job. It's a
Mhm.
hard job, in a two-person household. Again, I would say get you a village, and if you don't have a village, mentoring, find someone to mentor you or and your child,
Mhm.
because you need someone, you need help, and that's help is needed,
Mhm.
parenting. So that's my gem, village,
I'll take it.
mentorship.
Application to vet these
Definitely
these
vet.
busters.
Got to work hard too,
We
but
got-
that's
yeah.
for another day.
Carl.
No, I agree with Brandon. This was a eye-opening conversation. I can tell you are old school parent, so I can really relate to you. But I do think that what you said and what we've shared here is relevant to today's parenting. I always believe that a blueprint has been made, and a lot of people are trying to circumvent what's already been laid out rather than just following the blueprint that's tried and true. And a lot of things that you've already, shared with us today are tried and true, successful ways of parenting. So, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you all for giving the
Yes.
single moms a platform.
Well, and that's what we're here for. I mean, again, we did the fatherhood show, but it takes two. So Keisha, I can definitely echo the sentiment of Carl and Brandon. We thank you, for being here. I think it's important for us to always remember that as parents, we're always teaching, and I like to think that once I became a parent, the things that my parents did in terms of raising me, the things that worked, okay, I tried to institute those. The things that didn't work, stayed away
Hmm.
from those. So I tell people that there is no, Carl, to your point, there is no official blueprint, but parenting is trial and error.
Hmm.
So we look at, what's best for our children. And even as they become adults, they still think that, okay, I'm grown. Well, you grown. If you grown, then that means you don't need my help. But at some point, you're going to need our help.
Absolutely.
I told my youngest son at one point, we got into a altercation, verbal, of course. And I told him, I said, listen, man, I don't need you. You gonna need me before I ever need you.
Oh yeah.
And I know it sounds hurtful, but it's the truth. And 2-3 weeks later, Dad, I mean, I was thinking, yeah, you was thinking what you need.
Yeah. I've
You
definitely
know,
said those words too.
yeah. I mean, so we come full circle, and again, parenting is a very difficult job, but somebody got to do it. We thank you for being here, Keisha, because we've had what we consider to be a magical show, family.
Hey.
So as we like to say, y'all look us up, YouTube, share it, like it, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And as always, we want you guys to stay prayerful, stay positive, stay patient, stay peaceful. See you next time.